Welcome back to the Sox Machine podcast. All right, since it is after New Year's, it's time to share our resolutions for the 2023 year. This is going to be a pretty big year for me personally. So my resolutions are a bit aggressive at the beginning part of the year. But let's start with the Chicago White Sox. So last year, one of the New Year's resolutions they hit that I had was develop a top 100 prospect. And the White Sox did. They got two. Colson Montgomery has developed into a top 100 prospect. Oscar Colas has developed into a top 100 prospect. We may see Brian Ramos also join Colas and Montgomery in top 100 prospect list when they are released shortly before the regular season. So the White Sox they're going to have 2 to 3 top 100 prospects when the season starts. Then again, our assumption is Colas is going to be the starting right fielder. And at the midway point of the season, he's going to drop off the top 100 list, and we'll see where the White Sox are. But the White Sox did not figure out right field. They did not figure out second base. They did not win the American League Central, so they did not win a postseason series. Those are some of the resolutions that we had in 2022 that the White Sox did not meet. So hopefully they do a better job in 2023 of meeting our New Year's resolutions.
Jim, I'll have the average success rate. Yeah, but that's probably the average success rate for New Year's resolutions. 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6. They probably nailed it.
That's true. So what do you have, Jim, as your first New Year's resolution for the White Sox?
Basically,
stay healthy.
Basically, yeah, it's kind of comes to mind, stay healthy, but reintroduce yourself to the fan base. Like, as Penals wrote about in the site, like they've really drifted into a kind of like isolationism of just, withdrawing, from Sox Fest. Their social media channels are pretty quiet. Like they made the garage sale online only, which I didn't know about. It just kind of came and went. But, the garage sale seemed like kind of a harmless event, and just, a way to get people thinking about baseball in December. And they made it online only. And a lot of people were unhappy with the way, that was conducted. And that seemed like kind of a no-brainer for White Sox charities. How are people going to get mad at a garage sale? Like, they might hear more under your breath snarky comments, but just that seemed weird. So yeah, there's just been an idea that White Sox, the worst thing about, running the White Sox are their fans and the fact that people have to show up to watch them. Like there's an idea that just the White Sox are inconvenienced by their customers, which seems pretty bad for an entertainment based venture. So it would seem like they should probably reverse some of that. I don't encounter a whole lot of that just because I live in Nashville. So I don't go to a whole lot of games or think about going to a whole lot of games and don't have to deal with the lines and concessions and just, everything that has kind of gone south about the game day experience. But it would seem like reversing that would go, maybe, that wouldn't solve all their problems. Certainly they have to fix the on-field product, but that's what they can control. They can't control whether Tim Anderson stays healthy, whether, Yoan Moncada gets it together, whether Pedro Grifol is truly the guy to right all of Tony La Russa's wrongs, so on and so forth. But, treating the fans with higher regard is certainly something they can do regardless of what their record is.
That's a good one, Jim, especially for like the game day experience. They need to improve wait time. It's at the security check-in for the games. Even if people are showing up at the last minute, according to the White Sox, which last minute is 5 minutes before first pitch, they should not be missing an inning or two at times, just trying to get into the stadium. Like they need to improve upon that. They need to improve on the parking situation for those that coming off the highway. They have all these parking lots, but it's so difficult for White Sox fans to park at the stadium in a timely manner. So that definitely needs to improve. If they could do those two things, making it easier to get into the stadium, they're making progress and making the game day experience better. Then, of course, it's what's going on inside the stadium with concessions, not just as far as like food items, but able to buy things, because sometimes concession stands would just not be open for the Chicago White Sox, and it'd be pretty disappointing. Yeah, I'm always disappointed. Like we both love churros, Jim. If you don't get your churros by the third inning, there will be no churros left. Like it's incredible limited supply, and they're kind of hard to find sometimes in the stadium. That's just an an
The
example.
fifth inning is my churro inning.
Well,
So
you would luck out more times than not, I guarantee, right field. Yeah, they improving the game day experience. That's a great one, and also be a good way to reintroduce yourself to the fan base. Is again, the White Sox are trying to earn the trust back from the fans, and they're having a really weird way of doing that so far since the end of the 2022 regular season. Mine is my first one, and this is the biggest one. Eloy Jimenez, Yohan Moncada, Tim Anderson, and Luis Robert need to be in the lineup together for 100 plus games in 2023. It's time, Jim. Like all four of these guys are in the physical prime of their career. Tim Anderson will be leaving that age range where he will not be in his physical prime in the next couple of years. And the physical prime is usually like ages 26 through 31 is where players are in the physical prime of their careers, especially the Hall of Famers. This is when they usually have their peak in their career. Last year, these four were in the lineup together for 4 games. The year before that, they were in the lineup together for 21 games, but they weren't in the lineup together until August. This is just brutal when you look at it from that perspective. Like, these are the 4 core position players, and out of the last 324 regular season games, they have been in the lineup together 25 times. They need to be in the lineup for 100 plus games if they are going to beat out Cleveland and Minnesota and winning the American League Central in 2023. I strongly believe that. So I think this is a good New Year's resolution. I know I'm grouping up 4 together, but these 4 need to be in the lineup together for 100 plus games of the White Sox going to be the championship contenders that the front office thinks that they are.
That's a good one. And they really aren't 4 separate resolutions. I mean, like, the whole idea of all these extensions and locking these players in for a long amount of time was just like, they don't need, and the way they've spun it by having to pay these players more year after year and not acquiring the premium free agent is these are our premium players. So yeah, the premium players do need to comprise a premium heart of the lineup in a way that they haven't been able to.
So what's another New Year's resolution that you have for the White Sox if you have more than one?
Basically, stay healthy again. Just when thinking about last year's product, what was so unsatisfactory about it was the effort, or just some effort is eyewash. Some is like, you don't have to put your head down and run 100% on a grounder to second. They're going to be thrown out, are going to be thrown out by 30 or 35 feet. That's one form of hustle. But just when you had the no hustle list and you had the, Rick Hahn saying that he disagreed with how many people Tony La Russa told not to run, or there was some miscommunication over like who the front office thought could run and who couldn't, and just how pathetic that was. Just, not only from a player standpoint, not only from a product standpoint, but just from a communication standpoint, like just not being able to manage the manager and the manager not really managing the players. Like, it was a fundamental breakdown. So I think, when it comes, I'm trying to think of a way to phrase it aside from just hustle more, because that's not always the answer. I think it's just more of a matter of, and this has come up a lot for following the White Sox, is just, how about a normal chain of command? How about a normal, just, Rick Hahn, manages Pedro Grifol. Pedro Grifol has a normal scope of managerial jobs where he gets a fair amount of autonomy with what he can say, but they have check-ins to say, like, do you have the players you need? Do you have a healthy 26-man roster? How many players are not able to go right now? And be able to field a roster that can operate at maximum physical capacity, because they played a lot at 23 and 24 men last year, just guys who, either were not playing for 6 games in a row, but yet not on the 10-day injured list. Like, I would just like to see a roster that you don't have to worry about, like, who's actually healthy, who's, when are they going to be healthy? How long is this going to be continue looking like a crippled product, just, hampered, like needs to go into the the garage for weeks. That was the most unsatisfying part of watching last year's product. And a lot of it could have been rectified with just some more open lines of communication in terms of like who can actually run. If they can't run now, when can they run? And adjusting from there. So beyond the basically stay healthy, just basically know who is healthy. And if they're not, when they're going to be.
That's a good one. That's a really good one, Jim, especially the chain of command part. I think it will improve where Hahn picked Grifol. It wasn't Reinsdorf taking La Russa for Rick Hahn and then Rick Hahn trying to figure out how to work this relationship with someone who may not have. He said publicly that he had a ton of respect for the White Sox front office, but let's face it, La Russa was coming from a front office environment when he took the White Sox managerial job. He was part of front offices that won World Series more recently than the White Sox. He probably, in his mind, he knew more or knew better options of how to run the team than Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn. Now you don't have that situation, so there's no built-in excuse for Rick Hahn coming into 2023 and how this team is managed. You picked your guy. He's brand new to this type of gig, so things should be more streamlined is the assumption.
And I don't want Grifol to be a puppet. Like, I don't want to be a case like where Aaron Boone, has to, like, you have Brian Cashman defending him all the time and just, people wondering aloud, even players sometimes, especially after the postseason exits they had, like wondering, like, just where are the calls coming from? Like, I don't really care for any of that. I think Joe, for all the complaining Joe Madden's done, like, I think there is, like, especially for like a guy like Grifol who never, played a major league game. There used to be the stigma for managers, like if they never got to the majors, like do they have the authority to make decisions, or are they just extensions of the front office? And doubt can set in, and it's a way to undermine a potentially promising managerial career. So I would hope that he's empowered to make his own calls. I would just like to see, when it comes to communication, I would just like to, there to be some candid lines of communication saying like, Rick Hahn saying, why isn't this guy playing? He's been sitting for 3 days. Does something need to be done? Or Pedro Grifol saying like, we've been playing with a Yoan Moncada who can't swing the bat for, 9 days. We've been trying to gut through it. We can't. Who else do you have? Like, just that didn't seem like it was happening last year, where we had Larry Garcia collapsing after swings, and we had, Yoan Moncada looking like he was at 60%, like running on low battery. And we just had a whole bunch of, players just not performing the way they usually do, like Kendall Graveman not pitching on back-to-back days or struggling when he did, Joe Kelly not pitching on back-to-back days. So hopefully that will be solved or at least improved upon by just having a manager who the general manager wants and a manager who, is certainly has everything to prove he has to prove himself to his employer still. So hopefully there'll be more on top of that.
The one that I have going back to a specific player is Lucas Giolito having a sub-4 ERA. We have mentioned this many times. This is a pretty critical year for Lucas Giolito, especially when it comes to future earnings. Now, he's going to get paid. Before this free agency, if he duplicated his 2022 season, I was thinking he might get a year, $10 million as like a prove it type of contract. But after seeing some of the contracts these starting pitchers have signed, Giolito is going to get paid after this season. Now, how much is he going to get paid? Is he going to get a 9-figure guaranteed contract? I think largely depends on how the 2023 season goes for him. So on a personal level, Lucas Giolito should be hyper motivated. And I think having a sub-4 ERA it's not a completely low bar where Giolito left the 2022 season. This should be attainable. But if he can get back to his form, especially like his 2019, 2020 form, that's greatly going to help the Chicago White Sox as a team. They're going to win more games if they have that type of Lucas Giolito, but it'll also greatly help Lucas Giolito in his upcoming free agency if he can recapture those types of moments and that type of success that he had with the White Sox in 19 and 20. So I think this is a reachable resolution for Lucas Giolito, but he really needs to have a sub-4 ERA, not just to help the White Sox, but to help himself.
Yeah, if it's over 4, like say like 4 0.1 or something like that. You hope that it comes with like 190 innings or 185 innings, something where he is shouldering the burden. It's not a case where he's, pedestrian or like, a little bit better than average, but also, spend a little bit of time in the injured list and might have to, rush to catch up to qualify for the ERA title. Cause that would be, if you're not getting, there is some value in bulk and taking innings, even if those innings aren't sterling, but yeah, it's a case where it needs to either be one or the other, like, more durability, like no missed starts, or a case where he is, dynamite when he does start. Cause Lance Lynn is, he's had knee problems. He's in his, mid 30s. Like this could be the case where decline sets in and somebody else has to shoulder the load. And it was supposed to be Giolito in his prime.
Yes. It should be Cease and Giolito leading the rotation. I know Cease will be there. Will Giolito join him? I'm hopeful that he'll bounce back in 2023, but he does need to bounce back. And that bounce back is having a sub-4 ERA. Do you have another resolution for the White Sox in 2023, Jim?
I think, the resolutions beyond, that I have one more. After that became more a matter of like, oh, I hope he has Amani Grandal can rebound, which really isn't a resolution. Like he might, he's a catcher in his 30s. He's had multiple surgeries. He might be done. Like, you already covered the health issues elsewhere in the roster. So I think I would save my last one for, Liam Hendriks, Kendall Graveman, Joe Kelly. Like that needs to be more impressive as a unit. I know part of the bullpen's problems were the fact that the White Sox offense could not furnish them, cushions to have the good kind of low leverage appearances to where like, oh, they get the night off because the White Sox are up by 5 runs. Like those big leads are few and far between. So they had to, the emphasis on back-to-back days was probably heightened by the fact that the White Sox offense could not provide leads. And that's why, I've been emphasizing for a couple of years now to Rick Hahn, like in my writing and podcasts to say like, stop acquiring relievers, build, and that's why I've been open to trading Liam Hendriks, because like, I'd like to see an offense that could, take some of the stress out of the bullpen, and maybe the closer issue will solve itself by not requiring the closer to pitch 4 straight victories. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. But in the event that the White Sox offense is still unremarkable and you do have close games, like if you're spending $40 million on a bullpen, that bullpen needs to be good. That bullpen needs to be an asset. Like it was okay last year, but there were also some stretches where like Joe Kelly wasn't able to answer the bell. Like Kendall Graveman looked weak on the second of back-to-back days. And Liam Hendriks, who we thought was going to be like a 2-inning option at times, he had that arm issue flare up. And so he was limited to traditional closer usage, which is not what you want from a $15 million closer who is supposed to be something. So I think it's just more, Reynaldo Lopez stepped up, and I'm hoping he can continue to just bolster his position as a high leverage guy. And Aaron Bummer, we haven't seen what we know he can be in quite a while now. So they should get some help, but those 3 relievers really need to be more of an asset as a unit, be able to pick each other up. Like if Hendricks has saved 3 games in a row, like Graveman needs to be able to step in without question. Joe Kelly needs to be able to pick up a high leverage inning here and there, just because, arm strength is still there, movement's still there. Like they still have the stuff, just more of a matter of getting it. And I guess that falls to Ethan Katz a little bit too, and the training staff, making sure that they're actually ready to do it.
No, I like that one. My last New Year's resolution is you mentioned the White Sox offense. What if they struggle? They need to hit more than 185 home runs in 2023. 200 is ideal, especially when you play a guaranteed rate field. But 185, again, I'm picking resolutions that I think they can attain. And with this new hitting coach system that the White Sox have, essentially 3 hitting coaches, hopefully it's not too many chefs in the kitchen that starts confusing and backfires the method for the White Sox. I don't think it will be. But if you are now saying in late December, early January, and the message is going to continue to repeat during spring training, we are a ball club not looking to hit singles in 2023. We need to see results in the White Sox offense. And the result is putting the ball in the seats and hitting more than 185 home runs. And I think they could do that. Is going to be largely based on how healthy that they are in 2023. But I think 185 is a good goal.
I guess I can tack onto that too and say like they better be ready for the baseball as it played last year. because the opposite field homers dried up for the entire league, and a lot of teams were hurt by it. The White Sox were chief among them, because you think about, like, Eloy Jimenez has opposite field power. Jose Abreu has opposite field power. Andrew Vaughn has all fields power, but they also derive a lot of their home run total from balls that sneak over the right field fence, and those weren't happening last year. So, they can't count on the opposite field homers materializing for them, like if the ball continues to play as it's played. So hopefully they have some adjustments in mind to tap into power that's more directed towards the pull field or the pull power alley, to where they don't have to count on the conditions that they can't control themselves being favorable.
Yeah, Oppo tacos are happy mistakes. They should not be what you are targeting at the plate. You should be targeting on pitches to pull either to the gaps, as Jim mentioned, or try to pull, especially here into right field, into the new premium bleachers section.
Especially now that the shifts are banned, like, there's more incentive to try to pull.
Yes.
The all fields approach is probably, if it's natural for hitters and it's a way, like Tim Anderson, like the way he gets a lot of his hits on bad pitches, like, sure, continue to do that. But for guys like Yasmani Grandal, who, now he should be incentivized to, grip and rip. And, same for Andrew Vaughn, if he has that in him, pull the ball more. Even if it's in the ground, you might get more hits that way. If there's an adjustment period that is required to get the ball in the air more towards left field for these right-handed hitters, they should have a more forgiving environment and set of rules to help get by while they maybe battle through some grounders to the left side.
So those are my White Sox New Year's resolutions. It'd be great to hear your guys' New Year's resolutions as well. You could write them in the podcast post on soxmachine.com in the comments section, or hit us up on Twitter. Tweet at us at soxmachine, at soxmachine Josh, for your New Year's resolutions that you have for the Chicago White Sox.